Currently, there are more than 3 million robots. It's a robot around the world, according to the latest report from International Federation of Robotics. So actually, according to this report, there is around like 384,000 units have been installed in last year, in the year 2020. So where actually those robots have been installed? Hello everyone, and welcome today to a new report in my channel. I'm Omar, and I'm a robotic researcher and consultant based in Tokyo, Japan. And actually my company, WinRoad RTS, is a robot consultant firm based in Japan that can help startups and anyone who wants to develop robot technology to get help and be connected to the most advanced robotics companies around the world. A few weeks ago, the International Federation of Robotics have announced its latest update report about the number of the robots around the world for the year 2020. So it includes the first year of the pandemics. According to this data, there are 3,015,000 industrial robots around the world currently right now, with an installation of 384,000 units. It has been installed in the year 2020. If you look at my latest report that I published like 5 months ago, it was included the number of installation happening in the year 2019. Actually, according to our latest report, we have seen that actually the robot installment had been increased since the last 10 years, since the year 2010. And there is always an increase in the installation of robot. Every year there is an increase. It had reached the peak in the year 2018. There were like 422,000 units have been installed in 2018, but actually there have been a drop in the year 2019. So there were like around 382,000 units have been installed in 2018, and exactly it's not that different from the number have been installed in the year 2020. So looking at the countries which is the highest installation of robots, as always, the top 5 countries, which is China, Japan, United States, South Korea, and Germany, almost they are dominating the biggest installer around the world. So mostly around 70% of, or maybe 74% of the installation that's happening in these 5 countries. So China, according we can see the graph, there is the biggest installer. They have an installation of 168,000 units have been installed in the year 2020. And if you look to the next country in the list is Japan, we can find that they have been installation of 38,000 units. So you can see that there is a huge difference between China and Japan. Then follows the United States, almost 30,000. South Korea also 30,000. Germany 22,000. So it seems that Chinese are almost installing half of the industrial robot around the world in the year 2020. So there have been a huge demand for industrial robot in China right now. So of course, like as we say that China is a big installation, if we look at the data for the installation in China in the last 10 years, we can see that there's a huge difference between the year 2010 and the year 2020. So in 2010, there was 15,000 industrial robots had been installed in China, but now it has increased to 168,000 in the year 2020. So it seems that China is always increasing their installation of industrial robot every year. So it's become they have a plan to maybe automate most of their factories and becomes like using automation and robotics. If we compare that data with Japan used to be the highest installer of industrial robot. So in 2010 there was like 22,000 units had been installed in 2010, but it reached the peak in 2018. with a 55,000 unit, but actually it seems that it's dropping in the last 2 years. So since like 2018 have dropped now to 39,000. So it seems that there is a decrease in the installation of industrial robot in Japan. And it's not that different also from United States. Also, it had reached a peak in 2018 with 40,000, but now it seems that there is a drop in the last 2 years. Korea maybe have a different shape. So in Korea there was a peak in 2016, but since 2016 it seems that there is a drop in the installation of industrial robot. But the data in Germany is quite interesting. Of course, like it's have its peak in 2018, so it seems like 2018 was the peak for installation of industrial robot. But we can see, if we compare the installation in the last 10 years in Germany, we cannot see that much big difference between 2010 and 2020. Like almost from 14,000, it reached to 22,000. If we look at the data of China, we find that in 2010 there was 15,000 units, but it reached to 168,000 units. So we can see that there is a huge difference in China, but compared to Germany is quite almost the same. We can see now here also, like in between 2014 to 2016 is almost 20,000, is constant in 20,000. So it seems like in Germany they don't have like that kind of acceleration program, not like China. So mostly we believe that the automotive industry is the biggest user of industrial robot, followed by the electronics. So according to the latest data, like still like automotive is the biggest user with 32% of the total usage of industrial robot, followed by the electronics, which occupy 25%, followed by like metal and machinery 10%, and then plastic chemical 5%, food and beverages 3%, and the rest is maybe other sector or maybe unspecified usage. But if you just want to look at the installation happening during the last 3 years, we can see that actually in the last year in 2020 there had been almost more than 100,000 units, so 109,000 units had been installed in electronics, more than the number of units had been installed in automotive, which is 80,000. So it seems that there is a huge installation in the electronics and electronics industry, more than the installation in the automotive industry. So actually in 2018, in the peak, automotive seems to be the highest sector that had installed industrial robot. But now it seems that electronics is the one have installed more robot than automotive. If you want to compare that with countries, we can see that in China there is almost 63,000 units had been installed in the electronic sector. If you compare that one with automotive, there is only just 27,000 units had been installed in automotive. So almost there is a double number have been installed in electronics compared to the automotive. So it seems in China they are more like try to automate the electronics industry, but it seems that the automotive industry, but of course like during the pandemic there have been like a recession or maybe decrease in the demand for automotive because most of the people are just staying home. But I think there is a huge demand for electronics goods, especially like computers and maybe those sensor for and disinfection system, because most of the companies actually they shifted their work to home work, so there has been actually a huge demand on electronics. Yeah, it is not that different also in Japan. So we can see that electronics is the biggest user now, biggest installer of industrial robot if you compare to the automotive. But in the United States it's quite opposite. We can see that in the United States automotive is the biggest user, or biggest installer, not like the electronics. So I believe, of course, like most like American companies, especially like Apple, they manufacture all their iPhones and all their computers in China, not in the United States. But mostly cars companies, automotive companies are manufacture most of the cars in the United States. So they export from outside because the shipment of automotive is very expensive. If you compare electronics, maybe it's much cheaper to manufacture overseas and ship the component back to the United States. In South Korea, it seems that there is a huge installation in the electronics. We can see that also the semiconductor and LED manufacturing, they're also the biggest user of industrial robot, and not automotive. Of course, there is the peak of the automotive in 2018, but it seems that there have been a huge drop in the last 2 years in South Korea. But in Germany, it's similar to the United States. So most of the industrial robots are being used for automotive industry and also like metal and machinery. But there is a small percentage of electronics. So it's very clear from this data that in Asia, especially like China, Japan, South Korea, they are focusing the installation of industrial robot in the electronics. So most of the electronics industry is being done here in Asia. But like the United States or Germany, they are focusing more in using robot for machinery and also like automotive. We always have seen the increase and the rise of the cobot during the last few years. So mostly the installation, the usage of robot compared to the whole number of industrial robots is still a small percentage, but actually it's been increasing in the last four years. According to the data, it shows that the collaborative robot installation is increased from 11,000 in 2017 and reached to 22,000 in the year 2020. So we can see it's a small percentage, but it's increasing. Actually, like cobots are not being installed in a previous sector like the automotive or like electronics. It mostly has been installed in new type of application, new type of industry, because like the traditional industry of automotive and in electronics is still like relying a lot in the what we call is the traditional industrial robot, not the collaborative robot. I hope you are benefit from today's talk. So until I see you again, thank you very much.